Hello everyone, welcome to your English class. Today we will do the explanation of poem The Banyan Tree. Dear students, this poem is written by Rabindranath Tagore. Before discussing about the poem, let's discuss about Rabindranath Tagore. Dear students, Rabindranath Tagore was a great Indian poet. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for Gitanjali, which is a collection of his poems. He wrote Jana Gana Man, which was adopted as India's national anthem. Dear students, he was known as Bhanu Singh Thakur in his early life. He was a poet, short story writer, song composer, playwright. He was also a philosopher, artist and a Ayurveda researcher. Dear students, this poem is about a person who is reliving fond memories of his childhood. Now let's begin with the explanation of this poem. The Banyan Tree. O you shaggy-headed banyan tree, standing on the bank of the pond, have you forgotten the child, like the birds that have nested in your branches and left you? Do you not remember how he sat at the window and wondered at the tangle of your roots and plunged underground? In these lines, the poet was talking to banyan tree, which is standing on the shore of the pond, and asking him whether he has forgotten the little child as the birds have forgotten him who nested in his branches and left. In the next two lines, do you not remember how he sat at the window and wondered at the tangle of your roots and plunged underground? He is saying that if he had forgotten the little child how he used to sit next to the window and wonder at his tangled roots, how they have plunged underground. Dear students, you must be noticing this red bold words, shaggy-headed in the first stanza. Shaggy-headed means the branches of the trees are long, thick and unkempt, giving it an untidy appearance. Dear students, as you all know that banyan trees have the speciality that its root grow from its branches, and then they move on to the ground and go deep inside it. Here the poet is calling the banyan tree as shaggy-headed because it looks very unkempt and untidy because of those branches and the roots which are coming out from those branches. Now let's read the other stanza. The woman would come to fill their jars in the pond, and your huge black shadow would wriggle on the water like sleep struggling to wake up. In these three lines, as the poet is cherishing his childhood memories and asking him if he remembers such thing in these lines also, he is reminding of the time when the women would come to fill their pots in the pond, how his huge black shadow would wriggle on the water when the women dipped their pots in the water to fill it. He says that it looks like someone is sleeping and struggling to wake up when someone disturbed him. Now let's move on to our next lines. Sunlight danced on the ripples like restless tiny shuttle, and the child, weaving golden tapestry. What is the meaning of shuttles? Shuttles means devices used to weave clothes. Tapestry, a piece of cloth with patterns or designs that are woven or sewn onto it using colorful threads. In these lines, the poet reminds the banyan tree of the sunlight dancing on the ripples, like the device used for weaving clothes, which is a small patterned clothes with some designs on it, or designs woven on it or sewn on it. Now, what is the meaning of ripples? Ripples are the series of waves on the surface of water, usually caused by a slight breeze. You all must have seen in the water, like in the rivers and ponds. Whenever the slight wind, or we can say the slight breeze comes, the water moves a little in some series of waves, and it causes a very wonderful effect on the water. And let's read the further two lines. Two ducks swam by the weedy margin above their shadows, and the child would sit still and think. In these lines, he is saying that, and he is imagining the moment when he used to sit on the window and look through it towards the banyan tree. He used to notice the two ducks swimming in the weedy border, swimming on the weedy border, and the child who used to sit on the bank of the pond and gaze at it. Now let's read the last stanza. He longed to be the wind and blow through your resting branches, to be your shadow and lengthen with the day on the water, to be a bird and perch on your topmost twig, and to float like those ducks among the weeds and shadows. In this stanza, the poet Rabindranath Tagore is telling the banyan tree about his childhood wishes. Dear students, as we have read from the top, we have come to know that the little boy about whom the poet is talking in this poem, he is referring to himself. He is reminding of his childhood. So, in the last stanza, he is telling about his own childhood wishes. He says that he always longed means he always wished to be the wind and blow through his resting branches. He longed to be his shadow and lengthen with the day on the water. He longed to be the birds that perched on his topmost twig, and be the ducks that float among the weeds and shadows of his. That's all for today, dear students. I hope you all have understood this poem well. Thank you and have a good day.